This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. Here are your top stories of the day, courtesy of Paul Gatling with the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal.
President Donald Trump signed an executive order Tuesday advancing construction of the controversial Keystone XL and Dakota Access oil pipelines. That should be good news, in particular for Wellspun, which employs nearly 600 workers in Arkansas and has supplied the majority of the steel pipe to complete the U.S. portion of the Keystone project, stretching nearly 1,400 miles from the Canadian-U.S. border to Patoka, Illinois. Wellspun officials have said previously that more than 350 miles of the pipe is laying idle at the Little Rock plant, awaiting approval of the project. A bill introduced by a Northeast Arkansas legislator would limit the public's access to audio, photographs, and video recordings of any police officer killed in the line of duty. House Bill 1236, introduced by State Representative Jimmy Gazaway of Paragould, would make it a felony to distribute that information to the public. The Arkansas Press Association opposes the bill, which it says will create a class of people that can access the information and a second class of people who cannot. The bill is now before the House Judiciary Committee. And while the election of Donald Trump has been positive for investors, transportation analyst Benjamin Hartford of Robert W. Baird & Company has mixed views on the Trump administration. Tax and regulatory reform and infrastructure plans are positive signs, but changes in trade policy, he said, could lead to some turbulence in the industry. Arkansas Trucking Association President Shannon Newton shared similar views, and she also voiced concerns about the driver shortage and the rate at which drivers are reaching retirement age. In Arkansas, Newton said between 3,000 and 5,000 drivers could find jobs, quote, today.
And you can keep up with those top stories each and every day at our website at talkbusiness.net. You can also check out Northwest Arkansas News at nwabusinessjournal.com. Still to come, what can we expect to unfold this week at the state capitol? Several movers and shakers weigh in, plus Paul Gatling joins us for a roundup of news from Northwest Arkansas. We're back after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across two-thirds of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Tax cuts are a big issue at the legislature this session. There are three big measures fighting for primary attention: a low-income tax cut, an earned income tax credit for low-income families, and a tax cut on military retirement benefits. I sat down with Senator Jake Files, who chairs the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee, and Representative Warwick Sabin, who's pushing the earned income tax credit measure for a conversation. Let's begin with the governor's $50.5 million tax cut package. It looks headed for some smooth passage. The big negotiation really is with the military retirement benefits tax cut. Everyone wants to do it, but paying for it with the tax on manufactured housing, that's proved a little more problematic. Right now, the alternative is a digital download tax. I'd like you to explain that and tell me if you think it'll pass the Senate.
I do. It's a good question, Roby. There's been a lot of support for the bill, but obviously the manufactured housing gave a lot of people some pause. And so just looking through the list of exemptions, basically we're trying to find a way to pay for this to make it revenue neutral. And in going through those, there's a carve out for digital downloads that just deal with CDs, books, and movies. So when you walk into Walmart or Best Buy, you're going to pay tax on those things. If you download them, you don't. And so this just brings equity to those two things, but it should bring the bill in line. And I think once we get this thing fixed next week, I think you'll see smooth passage for it as well. And something that the veterans have been strong on for a long time, and it looks to be a good economic development tool as well.
Well, both of those bills face a Democratic-laden House Revenue and Tax Committee. I don't have to tell you that, but Democrats want an earned income tax credit. You're a co-sponsor of that bill in the Senate. Could all three of those tax cut bills land on the governor's desk?
They could. Anything's possible, and I quit trying a long time ago to determine what's going to happen in the House. We're just trying to do our business in the Senate. But they did both pass out of committee. I don't anticipate the earned income tax credit having enough support in both chambers, but I do think it's worth a debate. And I think you'll see more of this in the task force that's going to be created in the governor's $50 million tax plan, and I think it'll be something that's probably brought up later. I do think it's worthy of a good debate, and I think it's great policy for the state. It's actually a Ronald Reagan anti-poverty bill back in the day.
You filed a bill to close a loophole on internet tax collections. It's known as e-fairness. If you can buy it in the store basically and pay taxes on it, you should online too. You say it could bring in about $100 million in new revenue to the state. How do you address the pushback that you're taxing the internet, and do you have the votes to pass that bill?
I've gotten a lot of support from it, and I'm not telling you I got the votes for it now, but there's some other things that we're working on. This bill's modeled after a bill in South Dakota that has come along and got passed, and Amazon voluntarily agreed to start collecting tax there. The interesting thing here is that it's not a new tax. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not being collected. Well, the fact that it's not being collected doesn't mean that it's not on the books. And so this replaces a use tax. So when you buy something online, you're required to pay that tax. And I think there's been more collection of that, but there's not nearly enough. So this just brings parity along brick and mortar stores with the internet collections. And I think you're seeing this all across the country. It's going to bring in a lot of new revenue. The $100 million was a number that DF&A gave us, and I think you'll see that number go toward tax relief in the near future as well.
You'll be part of the Blue Ribbon Commission on Tax Reform. Some say all loopholes, all tax exemptions should be closed and they should be rejustified. Do you support that? And if so, are you going to take some action to do that?
I do. I plan on filing a bill. I'm working on it now that will sunset all exemptions in the next 5 years, and ask people to come back. If you're getting an exemption, then it ought to be worth something, because it's costing the state money and we're actually taxing other people. Hopefully we can close some of those loopholes, broaden the base, and lower everyone's tax burden in Arkansas.
All right. He's Senator Jake Files, Chairman of the Senate Revenue and Tax Committee. Thanks. I am now joined by Warwick Sabin, State Representative from Little Rock. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
You're pushing the Earned Income Tax Credit bill. You got it out of House Revenue and Tax Committee. Tell me why the EITC is a better tax plan than the governor's tax plan.
Sure. Well, there are really three reasons why. First off, the EITC is a much more targeted tax cut for the group that both the governor and myself are trying to hit, which is low-income working Arkansans. The governor's cutting a marginal tax rate, which means that anyone who can get their net taxable income down to the level that we're targeting also qualifies, which means you're giving a tax cut to a lot of people that we're not trying to give a tax cut to. Whereas the Earned Income Tax Credit is specifically for low-income working Arkansans, and it actually encourages work by rewarding them with a credit the more they work until we can move them out of poverty. Second, it's cheaper, and a lot of the reason why it's cheaper is because it's more efficient in the way that I just described. The governor's tax cut plan is over 50
$40 million,
and mine is $40 million. And the third is that the EITC is a proven policy. It's been in place at the federal level for several decades. It started with support from Gerald Ford and Ronald Reagan. It was Ronald Reagan's favorite anti-poverty program, and it's always had bipartisan support. And my plan starts with co-sponsorship from the chairman of both the House and Senate Revenue and Tax Committees, who are both Republicans, including Senator Files, who you just heard from. Right. So it's bipartisan, it's proven, it's targeted, it's cheaper, and I think it's better.
You still need more Republican votes than Democratic votes to get it through. Do you have the votes in the House?
Well, I don't know if I have the votes in the House. I know I've got more Republican co-sponsors that have come on. Representative Boyd from Fort Smith has signed on as a co-sponsor. I think one nice thing about the committee meeting that we had was that both plans were presented. Everybody got to hear them. I think when you hear the facts, you have a chance to make a decision based on the merits. That's what we're hopefully going to have in front of the full House. I know Senator Files is considering when he's going to run the same bill on the Senate side. And, we just want to have a fair policy discussion. And again, I've made my case to the governor, And I've made my case to the colleagues, and we're going to continue to work on it.
What do you think is the governor's holdup on this? Why do you think he favors the income tax bracket reform versus an EITC?
Well, I mean, I'll just tell you from my standpoint, I see it more as an academic, abstract exercise to some degree. I know that there's a real push to lower the marginal tax rates across the board for Arkansas, which, in theory, I don't disagree with. I mean, I think that, there are reasons to lower the rates. But the truth is, when you lower the rates by such small amounts, and especially at such low income levels, you don't really have the impact. You don't move people out of poverty. You don't incentivize work. You don't stimulate the economy. You don't reduce dependence on social services. And I think we need to be realistic about what we're facing here, which is a lot of people who work a job or work two jobs and still don't have enough money to support themselves. And that's a big problem because the expenses do fall back upon the state and upon all of us one way or another. So let's acknowledge reality instead of playing an abstract academic exercise with our marginal tax rates. Let's attack the problem, help people, and reduce the burden on everybody.
I know you're not ready for this yet, but if you don't win, if you don't succeed,
Sure.
will you support the governor's tax cut plan?
Well, actually, I didn't oppose it in committee. I serve on the House Revenue and Tax Committee, and I did not vote against it. And, I know that it includes the Blue Ribbon Tax Commission, and perhaps there will be an opportunity to continue this discussion there. So I'm not saying I would oppose the governor's tax cut plan, but I do think that when you're comparing apples to apples, when we both have the same goal and we have the same facts in front of us, that I would hope that we could do the best job in enacting the best policy for Arkansas.
Any chance you think that all of the tax cut plans, yours, the two other ones that are the biggies in the governor's package, that they make it to the governor's desk?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think we need to be responsible. I mean, there's a burden here on the budget, and part of this all started with the fact that in 13, we cut capital gains rates for the most wealthy Arkansans. In 15, we cut the rates for middle-class Arkansans, and the only people who have been left out are the low-income working Arkansans. And that's what we're all trying to get to. Now, some people would say we don't need to cut any taxes at this point because our budget is so tight. But again, if we're going to do it, let's do it with the best possible policy and the most effective policy. I don't think you can do all of it because I don't think the budget could withstand that.
You can see their full interviews on our website at talkbusiness.net. After this break, Paul Gatling with the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal rounds up some real estate news in the region. It was a banner year for home sales. Will it slow down in 2017? Find out after this.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy, and together we power life. Entergy.
When was the last time you felt free? It's time to uncover that feeling again. With the compassion of a cross and shield, accepted by over 90% of doctors and specialists, and the power of a card that opens doors in all 50 states, giving you the freedom to love, to dream, to dance like no one is watching. Arkansas Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Live fearless.
Paul Gatling is the editor of the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal, part of the family of news products, along with Talk Business and Politics. I caught up with him recently to discuss the strength of the real estate market in Northwest Arkansas. Home sales in Benton and Washington counties are up, foreclosures are down. What do the numbers tell us, and what's causing all of this positive news?
Well, as one realtor told me the other day, other than the rising population, which never is going to end, just good weather and a demand for new construction is keeping the market hot. There was sales volume hit $1.9 billion in Benton and Washington counties last year. That was up about 23% from 2015. And there were about 9,100 home sales, which was up about 10%. Median home sale prices are going up. The average price in Benton County is about $175,000, in Washington County about $165,000. Also had a realtor mention to me the other day that even the number of $1 million home sales skyrocketed last year. There were 34 seven-figure deals in Northwest Arkansas last year. There were 12 the year before that and 18 the year before that. There has never been anything quite like 34 in 1 year. So when you put all that together and add, like you say, the number of foreclosures is down to its lowest level in a decade before the housing bubble burst, you'll be hard-pressed to not find an industry leader in the real estate sector who is not brimming with optimism heading into 2017.
That's Paul Gatling with the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. Check out exclusive Northwest Arkansas news on our website at talkbusiness.net or through the Journal's homepage at nwabusinessjournal.com. That's all for today's program. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.